Hey, B2B leaders, feeling stuck in your growth journey as you've exhausted all your plays? Tired of doing things the same way and not seeing results? I'm Stacey Sussman, your host, and this is C-Suite Strategies, your podcast for the explosive business growth you've been chasing. We'll bring you conversations with industry visionaries who've truly mastered the art of scaling businesses. This isn't just theory, it's what we live and breathe every single day. Get ready for game-changing insights that'll transform your approach to business growth. Whether you're a seasoned C-Suite executive or an ambitious founder, we've got you covered. C-Suite Strategies is your backstage pass to reaching that next level of business. Follow C-Suite Strategies now, and let's make this your new reality. Hey, Pod Squad. We are super excited to have you here for another episode of C-Suite Strategies. We have another wonderful guest that we're bringing to you. And as I say every episode, I can't wait for you guys to hear what this conversation is. So today we are talking about the invisible architecture of success, how Brittany Fox, our guest here, has built an Inc. 5000 business without burning out and what she is up to next. Brittany doesn't do fluff. We were recently introduced to each other and I knew she was the right one for this conversation. A CEO and co-founder of Focus Global Talent Solutions, like I said, an Inc. 5000 AI and MarTech staffing firm. She's built the kind of successful company that most people dream about. She is now working on, she created a no BS community for ambitious leaders. She's not only successful, but she makes it sustainable. So our guest here today is Brittany Fox, and we are so excited to have her. Brittany, say hello to our Pod Squad.
Hi, Pod Squad. Excited to be here today with you and talk about building success without burnout. Thank you so much for having me, Stacey.
Amazing. So, Brittany, I know you have so much on your bio about what you do, what you've done, where you're going in life. But before I get into the no-nonsense questions, which I know you love to do based on the events that you're curating, just give us a little bit about your backstory and sort of what you're up to, what you've been up to and what you're up to now, just so we can give some context to our listeners who may not be as familiar with, who you are, and they should definitely know about you.
Yeah, perfect. So for the last 8 years, I have run a tech staffing company. Me and my husband founded it together. We bootstrapped everything. We had moved down from New York. We launched our company in Miami. I had been in real estate before. I worked in one of the top 10 teams in Manhattan. The last 3 years that I was with them, we sold $600 million of real estate, just the three of us.
Wow! Does everyone hear that? $600 million of real estate as a team of three. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yes. And we worked on new development projects, and my husband worked in staffing at the time. And we always compared our job as very similar. You had the buyer seller, you had the candidate client. And when we transitioned down to Miami, I didn't know if I wanted to do real estate here. It just didn't feel aligned. And through a series of events, Dave, my husband, ends up leaving his company. And we go all in to build our staffing firm together. We started in the second bedroom of our condo with our 2 dogs. At one point, we had 5 people coming to our apartment, and we realized it was time to get an office. But we bootstrapped everything. So the first year we were building our company, we actually were able to hit $2 million of revenue our first year, and then began our 8-year journey building the company. And last year, 2025, we made the Inc. 5000 list. It was our first time applying, and I wish I would have known about it sooner, but we had so much growth, and it was our best year in the business. And here we are today. And now I've started in my new venture, which I started last year on top of building the year of Inc. 5000. I started She Created. Of course, that's, what we do as high achievers, just keep building. And it was all about building community for high achieving women who want to talk about the other areas of our life outside of business. So that's a high level, quick background.
Is anyone else exhausted by that? I mean, not only did she do 1, 2, or 3 things, she's done like 25 things simultaneously without burning out. And so that's what I want to get into. These are some
Yeah.
facts I didn't know about you. So that's pretty amazing. So I know that you live a very intentional life just from knowing you and getting to know you better over the last couple of months. I know that you did run with your husband the Inc. 5000 company. You did chair the South Florida Tech Council. You are doing She Created. You are also a mom, a wife. I'm sure there's many other titles and accolades we can add, but just talk me through, how did you decide you were going to build such an intentional life without burning out? Was there a moment in time that you were just like, if I keep going like this, I'm literally going to crash and burn? Or did you read something? Did you attend something? I think usually people have some sort of like moment that's really, epiphany, personal, professional, etc., that they're like, oh my God, if I keep going this way, it's not going to work. And I have a moment, but I'd love to hear yours.
Yeah, for me, it was coming from New York, watching the industries that we were in, seeing people get exhausted. And I knew that when we started our company, I wanted to be really intentional because I think, as every young entrepreneur does, you think, oh, I'm going to build a business and have freedom of time. And well, if that isn't the biggest joke ever, I don't know what is. But I knew that was one of the goals. And the first 2 years, I would say, we poured everything into the business from a time perspective. And there was a point, there wasn't, say, like an aha, burnout, I'm exhausted. There were those moments, but it wasn't like one big epiphany. I just realized it wasn't sustainable. And when we were building our company, we had never run a business before. And we did what every entrepreneur does before ChatGPT. We Googled how to run a business, and we got hit by some Facebook ads. And next thing we know, we're attending personal development conferences and really began that journey. And I realized that 80% of business is psychology. The other 20% is the strategy. So I really wanted to start working on the psychology part. And that's when I really started to build an intentional life, realized that I had other areas outside of just my business. While this was such an important area for me, I didn't want to burn out because I knew if I kept going the way I was, it wasn't sustainable.
Oh my God. Yes, I know how that feeling. I feel I had a moment a little more dramatic in South Florida. I'm also a transplant from New York City. I literally got into a car accident. I was hit by a 16-year-old driver that had been driving for about 6 months. And I was like, I think this is like my moment, that it's like, if I keep going like this, I'm just not going to, it's just not going to work, because I had come from a conference that I was hosting with a client, and I was running to school pickup, and then I was running back to get on another conference call. And I was like, oh my God, I think this is the universe telling me, like, I say, you got to slow down to go faster. And so I hear you on that one. So most, I think, founders and co-founders and entrepreneurs, I think there's this sense of like, and I'm reading a book now called Never Enough, that it's this like, you fake it till you make it, right? You keep going, you talk the talk. But I feel like you set on a life that was like, we were building, but we wanted to kind of attend these conferences or these personal growths. What were some of like the beginning conferences or coaching that you started doing, maybe from those Facebook ads, which here they're a proven factor that they do work, that you were just like, okay, let's try this? And I think you've gone very deep into this, psychology of business rabbit hole, which I think I agree with you. I do think most of the business is psychology, especially with interpersonal relationships and co-founders and partnerships. Where did you even like start? So you got fed these Facebook ads, and then where were you going?
So, one of the first events that I attended was Tony Robbins' Business Mastery. That was the Facebook ad that we got hit with.
Yes,
And
Tony Robbins. I still get them today.
I thought I signed up for a business course and I arrive in Las Vegas. And next thing I know, I'm jumping up and down with a bunch of strangers thinking, what the heck did I just sign up for? And then he's like, hug your neighbor. And I'm like, no, like what is happening? And then by the end, I'm jumping up and down. I'm hugging the people. I drank the Kool-Aid. And he has this 1-year program. It's called his Platinum Group. And it sounded amazing because he talks about you become the people who you hang out with. And I didn't know people who were doing this stuff. And I wanted more because I had so many breakthroughs about business, about life, about my mindset, how I'm only going to be able to have as much success as what I believe. And so I wanted more. And I looked at his program. It cost at the time, it was $85,000. I said, okay, not quite ready yet, but we're going to make this a goal. And that was the inspiration. And I started reading books. I also knew that the top founders, top CEOs, they read about 36 books, whatever the number was. And I hadn't really done much reading at that time, like very casual, but I went deep. I think I read 20 books my first year. And this was back in 2018. And there's also, I don't know if you've heard of the 75 Hard by Andy Frisella. So before it was cool, before it was like all trendy on Instagram, I decided to do this. And keep in mind too, not only have I not been reading, I also have not been a workout person. That this was not like me. And so but I knew that this is what successful people did. So I needed to create those muscles and those disciplines. So, I mean, why not go all in and join a challenge like 75 Hard, where you have to work out twice a day? And he says it's not about the movement, it's about the discipline. Like you can go for a walk on those, but one of them has to be outside. And then the other one does, need to be for a workout of 45 minutes or so. So that was my first real challenge that I did outside of a conference. And I said I knew if I signed up for this, when I commit to something, I'm all in. Like, it might take me a little time to sign up, but once I'm signed up, I'm in. Like, giving it all
I'm committed.
Yeah. And so, but on the 75 Hard, if you miss one of the challenges, you have to start over from day one.
Oh, it's
so
like a reset. Okay.
Heck no. And I didn't think this is something I could do, but I was all in. And I did it. And I didn't have to start over one time. And that was the first time I really realized what was possible. That if I could accomplish that, the thing I thought I could never do, I can do anything. And that's just part of the journey from the books, from the conferences to doing hard things.
I love that. I find that when we're working with clients, I feel like I say we make the impossible possible, because I often hear our clients say when we're working in like rev ops and marketing ops and sales ops, they're always like, that's impossible. We've tried that. It can never be done. And I feel like that's kind of your 75 Hard mindset, that it's like, it is possible and it can be done. But first of all, you have to believe that it can be done. And then I think you also need to strategize your professional life, your personal life, to actually be like, I will make time for this. I will make room for this in my life. If you're just a naysayer, I feel like it becomes very hard to get ahead of it. What do you think?
And that's the never-ending game, though, of entrepreneurship, of business, of sales, of marketing, is constantly pivoting. Yes, you tried it, but guess what? The market changed. Guess what? That ad no longer works. But you got to keep going and you got to pivot. I was actually having one of these frustrating moments the other day in my business about marketing. And I was just like, I don't want to do the website again. Like, come on. Like, we just did a whole brand thing, but it wasn't landing. So guess what? This is the game. You got to show up. And sometimes it's the little changes. It doesn't have to be the big overhaul. It's those little shifts that can make all the difference.
Yeah. And I also believe that what you believe inside of you and the narrative you tell yourself in your head, which I think is like the psychology of business, which I always say everything is possible, is because if you kind of tell these story arc and loops in your head that like, oh, I can't redo my website copy. We just did this. This is impossible. Oh my God, I don't have the time for this. It's not necessary, etc. it's never going to get done. It's never going to happen. But if you're sort of open-minded, and I think a lot of the practices you probably do daily, and we'll get into that, say, okay, like you said, the market's changed. It's shifted. I mean, for website copy, for example, and I was just doing this before I got on the call, like working with my AI agents to be like, okay, like, got to change all this marketing. Like, here's what I wrote. Here's what I'm thinking. Let's like go through it. I mean, I just spit out one of the most beautiful marketing content plans using our friends at Claude. And I was just like so impressed with what came out. Talk to me now about like a Tuesday morning. Like, what does Tuesday morning look like? Or what are some of the daily routines that you put into practice, knowing you're day slammed, your schedules are crazy? What are some of those like non-negotiables that you're like, I have to get these things in order to like still achieve at like the highest level of what I believe I can do? Which marketing channel closed your last 3 deals? How much did you spend? And what revenue did it generate? At RevUp Advisory, we help CMOs prove marketing ROI with real attribution, connecting campaigns to closed revenue. We create strategic alignment between marketing and sales teams. And yes, we know the buzzword. We're using agentic AI too. If you're ready to show pipeline impact and scale with revenue predictability, contact Stacy Sussman, CRO at RevUp Advisory.
Yeah. So I love that you asked about Tuesday, which is actually the day that we're on today recording this podcast, because Tuesday mornings, I actually drive my son to school and he has a walk-in. So I get to go in the class with him. They do it once a week. So that's how I start my Tuesdays. And then I come back to typically my home, and that's where I work from, and start my routine from there. And even before I take him to school, something that is so important to me is spending time getting really clear. Just by getting clear, though, I have to get quiet. And so I meditate almost every single morning. And that's when I just connect to myself. I connect to God, the universe, and just figure out who am I for the day and how am I going to show up. I'm such a big believer in filling your own cup up before you go and try to pour out. So my morning routine is definitely meditation. I exercise 3 days of the week. I'm still working on that identity of the athlete that I am. Well, that's like a really hard discipline for me. It's not a natural thing. It's something that I still have to show up for, that I have to have a trainer. If I don't have a trainer, guess what?
Accountability.
I am not going to be at the gym. I just have every excuse. I can find them.
We all can find them.
Yeah. So having that accountability, having for those things that you know is your struggle or challenge in life, like show up, have the accountability, and put on your own oxygen mask before you go and try to tackle all the things that you have for the day.
I love that. I think that was a couple years ago after I lived in Manhattan for about 20 years, and then we moved to Florida about 3.5 years ago. And I think leaving the Manhattan hustle culture, rat race, I call it the hamster wheel, I feel like I poured everything into everyone else, my family, my clients, etc. And I just kept going. And when we moved to Florida and it's a little bit more of like a slower pace, I was just like, oh, I can't show up as the best version of myself if, like you're saying, my cup's not full, my energy buckets aren't like firing on all cylinders. I worked with an energy coach a couple of years ago that she was like, imagine your energy is like 10 blocks a day and you can't get those 10 blocks back. You kind of can deplete them, but if you can kind of sustain these high energy moments. So it was like a big wake up call to me and be like, okay, what time of day works best for me? Am I a morning person? Am I a night owl? And how does that look? And I would also say I added meditation in. I do this one Joe Dispenza meditation that it was a year. Thanksgiving was a year that I've been doing it. I try to do it every day. I actually taught my kids that. We fall asleep to this one meditation. And now I've explored other kind of meditations, and I'm on a 30-day challenge of can I work out every day for the next 30 days? It's been an evolution of like 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. And so now I'm like, can I move my body every day for even 20 minutes? And so I'm on that challenge. I'll let you guys know what I think.
I love that. And I think so when we talk about like creating a life of sustainable success without all the burnout, is that you have these disciplines that you do in your life that you show up for. But what is the true transition for me that I didn't find myself in that burnout was taking on that identity, which I still am working on, this one of working out and being that athlete. It has come more natural to me, but eventually with the discipline, I think we do burn out or it becomes a checklist. So I went to my first Joe Dispenza about 4 years ago, and I had never meditated before. Like, not a meditator, as everyone always says, especially as high achievers. Oh, I can never sit down like for 5 minutes. Like, we all say that.
Yeah.
But I go to this experience and I learn about the science of how you change your brain, as you did as well. And that 95% of our thoughts are the same from the day before. And when I heard that, it baffled me. And I thought, well, this is not good because I want to create some new realities here and I want to create something different in my life and I want to keep growing. So how do I do that? So taking on that identity of someone who is a meditator who connects first before she goes out in the world and gives. The other thing that I realized, so as also like the high achiever that I am and that I'm sure most of your audience is, it became a checklist item for me. So I did not meditate for 4 years every single day. It was such a checklist for me. At one point, I realized I'm just doing this to do this.
Right.
So I made myself stop. Wow. And that was like heartbreaking because I'm breaking my record of 4 years meditating. But it was because it became a checklist. It wasn't about the identity of connecting. And I had to reestablish that. And even now, I'm not doing it every single day because I want that healthy relationship of an identity. And now I'm finding other ways to do it too by going for a walk or being in nature. Once a week right now, I am going to the beach, which I've always made that a goal since living in Miami, but it's amazing how you live here and you don't go to the beach. And I'm like,
I know.
It's my favorite place in the world. What am I doing? So I've made that part of my meditation. While I'm not sitting there closing my eyes, I'm sitting there in silence and connecting. So there's multiple ways to get the same outcome. So being intentional with why are you doing what you're doing?
I love that. We live about less than 20 minutes from the beach, and there'll be months upon months that I don't go. And I'm like, oh my God, I used to live in New York. I used to go to Central Park all the time. Like, the beach is the same kind of thing. So I now go at sunset. I do about an hour and I bring my journal and I'm working on a book in the background and I just like sit with my beach chair and my pen and it's just like such a peaceful time. And I'm like, we moved to Florida to be, I would say one of the things were be closer to nature, that nature was, available sort of anywhere. And then when you don't go to the beach. So I think it's a misconception to people that just because you live in Florida, you go to the beach all the time. But I love the idea that just taking the time out for yourself, taking the time to pause, taking the time to reflect. And I feel like there's nothing better, I think, than hearing like the ocean waves and just getting really like clear in like your thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the best.
So talk to us about what you're doing now, and I'll add some funny stories of some cool things that I've heard at some of your events. So talk to us about what you're doing now, what you're up to, and I love what you're doing. So I'd love for the audience to hear more about what you're up to.
Yeah. So last year, I started my community She Created. It started really as a passion project. It just happened naturally because I kept meeting these amazing women and I would hear the same thing over and over from them, that it was hard for them to find these relationships or that it was hard to connect or that they wanted to talk about something other than business. Because once you get in the personal development world, you want to have more of those conversations. You want to be able to connect deeply instead of that surface level. And there's two major inspirations for me starting She Created, which is a community of high-achieving women who are living an intentional life. And there's really two women, I believe, that are coming to the events. There is the women, probably most like you and I, who have been doing the work, who've been doing the conferences. We've had success in our lives, and we're at that point of impact that we want to continue to grow, and that we're building something that we love and that is just our passion and like what we're meant to be doing. And we just want to keep growing in community together, because when ambitious women get together and they say the things out loud that either is a big success or is a struggle, and then we can say, me too. I felt that too. And it gives us that inspiration to keep going, to say that next scary dream out loud. And then I'm also finding that there's the woman who has had a lot of success. She's that high achiever, and she's at that point where she wants a change in her life. Maybe she's been to like a conference or two, but she hasn't made the changes. She hasn't implemented the work, but she's at the point where she's like, not another minute now. I want to transition, whatever that is. I'm tired of the burnout. I'm tired of the grind. And it doesn't mean that we're not grinding. We've just found another way. It doesn't end. There's just another level to it and another way of designing it. And so there's those two types of women that show up. But I'll never forget, one of my big inspiration was I went to one of these executive women events, and I don't come from a corporate background, right? I did real estate, and then I've been an entrepreneur. And it was my first my clients in the staffing business, most of them were in corporate. And it was my first, though, one showing up where we're kind of networking in that way. And I was like, oh my gosh, these conversations, they were so surface level.
Yeah.
Like, it was all just like, tell me what you do, like your accolades, bam. And I'm like, okay, I can play this game, but then I'll like say something like about personal development or like psychology and your like the way your brain works. Some of them were like, oh, okay, like, and then others were like, oh my God, tell me more. I've never heard this. And I was just like, what do you mean? And so I realized there was a need for women that were seeking this, that they had success, but they did want to go deeper, but they didn't know where to find it. So that was one of my big inspirations. And then the other one was when I found my group of women who inspire. I'll never forget, because the person I am today was not who I was when I showed up in that group.
Of course.
I was, someone who I was the hider. I was a high achiever, but I hid. I was not someone who was very vocal. You would never think I'd be doing what I'm doing now, because I was a people pleaser. I wanted to make sure everyone liked me. I didn't want to feel judged or rejected. And I would do all the things to present a certain way so that people would like me. And as I worked through that in my personal development journey, I realized that so many women struggle with this, with the people pleasing, with the perfectionism, and that they have such a gift to offer the world. And I wanted to create a space where women could walk through that journey and also know that they're not alone, and just find the same freedom that I found to be able to be yourself, to say the thing. And it doesn't matter if someone doesn't like it. I'm going to be who I am, and it doesn't matter, and that's okay. So those are my two big inspirations. But what she created really is, there's a couple ways that we curate the community. It's through social gatherings like happy hours that are intentional. We still have ways to connect on a deeper level during those events. And then I host curated dinners of up to 12 women.
That are fabulous, by the way.
Yeah, Stacey has been to both the happy hour and the dinners.
Yes.
And the dinners are super intentional. So it's about having the right women in the room. And I'm always amazed that it always happens. Whoever is meant to be there shows up for these dinners. And it's one conversation. So I'll guide us between 2 and 3 questions, depends on how long we go with each question, but they're very intentional to help us go deeper quick. So the container is set where there's expectations of how we're going to interact with each other. And it's just a beautiful, especially when the first woman goes and she shows up vulnerable. Then it gives us all permission to do that. And everyone gets to share. So that's another way that we do the social events, that women can get connected. They can find their next BFF or just get involved in what we're doing. And the third thing that I'm doing is retreats, where these are more of the immersive experience. So someone who's ready for transformation, and it can be either woman that I talked about earlier, the woman on impact who maybe she just needs that little shift, that little moment of clarity that will make all the difference. As you continue on the personal development road, it's not always some massive, intensive conference that we need. It's just a little clarity, and it changes everything. And then there is the woman who
Yes.
does need that massive transformation where she's been stuck and she really needs a breakthrough. And I've seen that at the events, and it's just so beautiful when you see her have that moment and then you get to go on the journey with her. Because we also stay in community after. So we have the group coaching program where I bring in a coaching expert who guides us around a couple different topics, and we stay connected and we keep the momentum going after the retreat. Because as we talked about earlier, sometimes we just need that accountability.
Yeah. I feel like once you get into I feel like these circles, once you get into these circles of people that are high achievers, but they realize their business and making whatever that looks like successful is one thing. And then I think there's this other thing over here of this mindset and how do you want to live an intentional life and what kind of impact do you want to leave on the world and what's your legacy. I think when those two pieces intermesh, I think that's when you're actually living this sustainable and successful life. And it is so enriching to be here. And it's an evolution, right?
Yeah.
Who I was 2 years ago versus a year ago versus 6 months ago, I think it's iterative and you're constantly kind of changing or tweaking, as you say. But I think finding these containers is sometimes also the hardest part. And then I think the folks that are on the outside that are like, Brittany, Stacey, like, how do I even like get started? Like, how do I find this? Or I don't live in Miami. Like, what do I do? What do you think could be a good first start? I mean, you mentioned reading books or going to one of these Tony Robbins kind of gurus. I think that like everyone knows, but where do some people even get started, I think? Because sometimes it feels even overwhelming to be like, I want a seat at that 12-person table, but like, I don't even know where to start and how to even get to that 12-person table.
Yeah. So the biggest thing that I say is to get in the room. It doesn't matter what room it is. You got to start somewhere and showing up again and again and building that muscle of even when, especially for my introverts out there or women who are still struggling with the people pleasing, is to show up anyways. Show up. It's going to make all the difference. You never know who you're going to meet. And actually, this is fun. So how I met Stacey was through one of my really good friends, and I met her at this random tech event. And this tech event was not the most amazing event that I've been to. And I learned that if I meet one person, if I have one good conversation,
it's a great conference, event, etc.
Oh my gosh, that's it. I think sometimes as salespeople or people who are building, we're like, I have metrics and I need to go into these events and get X, Y, and Z. No, one. If I get one thing and show up one time. And so that's how I met my friend Marissa, who introduced us to each other. And it was just showing up at that event. And even when I didn't want to, even the other night, I had this exact experience. There was this event that I was like, I have a headache, all the things of why not to show up. And I went, and it was a group of about 50 women in this social event. And I knew 10 of them. I was like, this is wild. I had no idea they were going to be there. And then then they introduced me to new women. And so it just keeps growing. It's a compound effect, but it starts with one action, showing up to one room, reading one book. Don't make it so overwhelming. You don't need to change everything at once. Start with one.
I love that. Yeah, I feel like when Marissa invited me to one of your dinners over the summer, I would say, she's like, hey, there's an event. I think it was beginning of the week and it was towards the end of the week. So it was only a few days later. And she's like, do you want to come? And I was looked at your website and I probably looked you up on LinkedIn and I was just like, okay, I'm in. So I showed up. I drove to Miami. I really didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know, I didn't even know Marissa that well, but we had been introduced through another community that's amazing. So I was like, if she's part of that community and she knows Brittany, and I showed up and I was just like, this is great. And I think I'm more of an extrovert because I was in sales for so many years in Manhattan. And maybe you're an introvert, extrovert. I don't know how you would describe yourself, but you had these cards that were go up and talk to someone else. And then if you saw us talking to each other for too long, you sort of shuffled and mixed the conversation. And I think they're just showing up and then having someone that carefully curates the room that is pushing you, let's say, out of your comfort zone. I think that's sort of when the magic happens. And so I was just if I go and have a one great night and meet a couple new people, that was great. But I think what I left was I like showed up for myself.
Mhm.
And that was sort of enough. And then I did also meet some really awesome people too.
Yeah, I love that, showing up for yourself, because you just never know. Even if you didn't meet that one person, maybe you heard one thing that inspired you and motivated you for whatever you needed to do next. So you just never know.
Yes, and the story I want to tell, I'll laugh because I'll never forget at the first dinner I went to where everyone was talking about how they meditate. And then the woman said they meditate on 1.5 times speed. And I was like, wait, isn't the point of meditating that you're, slowing down and getting grounded? And I just remember that was such a funny moment at the dinner and a good chuckle because I was like, we're all such high achievers that it's like, we got to get in the meditation, but let's dub it 1.5 times so we get through it faster.
Yes, I still have this conversation with this person, and I'm gonna send her this podcast and be like, "Look, we're still talking about it."
It
But
was
yeah, it's a high
mind blowing.
achiever, right? Like, it's a high achiever. We got to keep going, or just keep doing. So it was really funny, though.
Yes, it was so funny. And then I'll just kind of go and wrap it up. But if you were to look back, I feel like there's this Instagram trend now that it's like, it's 2026. And where were you 10 years ago in 2016? If you've seen this like trend going around, me and my friends have been talking about it. Like, who was she, and what would she say about the person that you are now? Because like a decade is a long time. I'm talking about making changes that you can implement, today, tomorrow, the next couple months. But reflectively, who was Brittany 10 years ago? What advice would she tell this new person now?
Oh my gosh, I haven't thought of it like that. I've seen this trending reel, and I was just thinking more of like the photos and where were you? I was still in New York at the time. I'd been there like 7 years, but I was about to transition to Miami after a while, and I hadn't began my personal development journey.
Okay, so
And
totally
so
different, Brittany.
yeah, so different. I mean, she was an achiever, right? Like she's on one of the top 10 teams in Manhattan. Like she's living the life. She's traveling the world. She's like doing all the things. I would tell her like back then and I started young. Like, I mean, I was 28 when I moved to Miami, and that's when I began my journey of the personal development. But people say that I'm young, but I just like, imagine if I would have started this 10 years ago in my early 20s.
I
Because
know.
like the 20s were hard, man. Like moving to New York, trying to figure out life. Like, who am I? Coming out of a very conservative home in Texas. Like, I'm experiencing a different life here.
Yeah.
So I think I would have told her, like, if I could have invested even sooner in the personal development journey, I mean, that's what I would tell her. But today, oh my gosh, what I would tell myself is how proud I am of the transformation and the true freedom I have in my mind that I never thought was possible. I always growing up thought, I was like, I think there's a different way of living and a different way of thinking, but I didn't know how. I didn't know what that looked like. But I would tell her that not only did you find out, not only did you learn the awarenesses, you implemented the change, because a lot of people learn information, but they don't implement it. And that's absolutely key to continuing to grow.
Yes, I love that. I was in Manhattan 10 years ago running sales teams all over New York City and traveling, and went to every showroom and beauty showroom and fashion showroom. And I'm just like, oh my God, if I had, age comes wisdom. But I feel like if I had some of the tools and the coaching and the personal development and the programs, like I was high achieving, I was firing on all cylinders. I was that salesperson with the big cushy job, and we went to every restaurant, event. I mean, I did everything New
Yes.
York had to offer. But I was like, if only I had a little bit more wisdom on like the self-awareness or where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do, and was running hard, but running hard, I'll say, with like more intention to my life, it would be amazing. But that comes with time, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And I think, I mean, it's also made us who we are today. So I look back at it with such gratitude. And it's like, this is the advice that I would give. If you can start sooner, start.
Yes. I think there's nowhere better to be than New York City in your 20s, too. I feel like I reflect on those days so fondly.
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, as we wrap up this episode, if folks wanted to get in touch with you, learn more about you, how can they find you? Where can they find you? What's the best places?
Yeah, you can check out my website at shecreated.co.co. You can follow me on Instagram. It's BE Foxy, Foxy. That's my last name, Fox. So BEFOXY. Would love to stay connected there.
Amazing. Well, thanks for coming on this episode of C-Suite Strategies. We love talking to you. I feel like every time I chat with you, I get inspired, and I hope our listeners have stayed on till the end to hear, because your next big business breakthrough may be an episode away. So tell us what you think, and we will see you soon, Pod Squad. Thanks for listening. Bye.
As we wrap up this episode of C-Suite Strategies, I want to express my sincere gratitude to you, our listeners, for tuning in and engaging with our podcast. Your commitment to business growth and operational excellence is what drives this podcast forward. A special thank you to our guests today for sharing their valuable business insights and experience. Your wisdom is a gift to our audience, and we're honored to have had you on our show today. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd be thrilled if you follow and subscribe to the podcast. Your help supports us to reach more ambitious business leaders just like you. And if you didn't enjoy it, well, I guess I'll see you never. This is your host, Stacey Sussman, Chief Revenue Officer at RevUp Advisory, signing off.